Hello, I'm Jared.
And I'm Ebony, and this is his
And hers.
Warhammer 40k.
Yay! Today we are discussing the fourth Dawn of Fire book, Throne of Light by Guy Haley.
Spoiler alert, not the final book.
Ebony wasn't aware that this is not the final book. It is just the latest one that has been published.
I was like, man, that's a cliffhanger for a series.
Yeah,
Makes
so
sense now.
that definitely changes how you look at the ending.
Yes, it's
Okay.
fine.
It's a fine ending now. It's not just left on.
I would like
on
a
whatever.
little less cliffhanger, but yeah, fine. Yeah, okay.
No, I actually think the ending on this one has good reason for the cliffhanger,
Yeah.
but we'll talk
get
about
there.
that later. So this is a book that continues, I want to say 4 years later.
Time has definitely passed, yeah.
Yeah, so the Wolf Time, the previous book, took place, I want to say 2 or 3 years into
The
Indomitus Crusade. We're now, we're now 4 years into the Crusade.
And like things have happened off screen that aren't important to this storyline. Like these Primaris Marines didn't get where they're supposed to and were suspicious, so we're gonna send so yeah, some time has passed since the
Right.
last
So
book.
what had been going on while the actual Indomitus fleets were being organized is smaller individual ships called Torchbearer fleets were sent out to as many Space Marine chapter homeworlds as could be found.
Bringing Primaris.
Bringing Primaris, captained by Adeptus Custodes, a few Sisters of Silence to help get through the Great Rift, and primarily having some contingent of Primaris Marines, as well as the technology for chapters to make their own.
Yeah.
And for the most part, this has been accepted. We saw in the Wolf Time, obviously the Space Wolves had to be pushed quite a bit, and there was a whole endeavor for that to happen.
Yeah.
This book has a side plot dealing with a group of Black Templars,
Which I've never really met
receiving the
before.
Primaris. So you did, because we read Hell's Reach many years ago, which is all about the Black Templars.
I wasn't impressed. That's what I'll say about these Black Templar. There was just, I don't know. That was my major complaint about the Wolf Time, right? All the time spent being like, will they take them? Won't they take them? And it's like, we're at war. Ain't nobody got time for your feelings. Like, nah. That's how I felt.
You have to understand, like, groups like the Space Wolves and individual crusades of Black Templars, they don't give a shit about the rest of the Imperium. Like, they have very particular views.
I know. And I get that, like, Gilliman has a plan, but I feel the same way about them. Like, I don't give a shit. It's me. Get in or get out.
No, and the reason that they can't just get out is, as Gilliman says, as
They're like important.
as Lucerne says. Well, technically they're not a first founding chapter, but I feel he would have been the same had any chapter refused them.
Yeah, it looks
which
bad,
is
I get
if one refuses them, then others can as well, and they will. You know, there are other Orthodox chapters that, if shown someone else doing it, if these Black Templars could act,
it will set a precedent.
Right, it will set a precedent.
But I just, like, do I have to read about it every time? Like,
hopefully this should be the last of it, because that covers the last of the major chapters. I doubt they'll do one for the Crimson Fists, which are really the only other major chapter left.
Okay. Every time you say Crimson Fist, I think the Crimson Chin.
No,
I know. I've never encountered the Crimson Fist.
You did too, because we read Rin's World.
Okay. I don't think so. I feel like I've never even heard that title before.
Yeah, this was ages ago when we were doing the Space. It's actually part of the same series as Hell's Reach.
Maybe I didn't love it.
It's possible.
Anyway. Back to Throne of Light.
Right. So what happened off screen from this is Gilliman met with High Marshal Helbrecht, who is the overall leader of the Black Templars. The Black Templars as a chapter operate very differently from most other chapters. They don't follow the Codex Astartes. They don't limit themselves to 1,000 Marines.
Just not doing any of the things.
Basically, each individual contingent of Black Templars, based on where they are sent, is considered a crusade fleet. And they operate more or less independently with their own marshal, their own chaplain, sort of left to their own, usually with one particular goal in mind, but crusades can last, months or years or decades. Guilliman's meeting with Helbrecht convinced the vast majority of Black Templars to accept Primaris Marines, and so individual torchbearer ships were sent to the other crusades.
But one is missing.
This particular crusade, the Angevin
And
crusade...
I've been saying Angevin. It's very French in my head, but it could
It's
be
definitely
Angevin.
not. No, Games Workshop being a British company, nothing will have its French pronunciation.
Yeah, I've been saying Angevin.
No. It is definitely Angevin, or
Okay.
Angevin.
Okay.
Who was led by Marshal Angevin. We know they received a torchbearer fleet, and then nothing was heard from them.
Disappeared into the darkness of space.
Right. Which sort of leads us into our first major plot, that of Historitor Fabian and, was it?
Lucerne.
Lucerne. We met
I've
Lucerne.
also been saying that Frenchly in my head.
No. We met Lucerne back in...
The first book, I think.
No, Gate of Bones.
Second. That's the first book.
No. First book was Avenging Sun.
Yeah, no, he's in Gate of Bones, yeah.
In Gate of Bones, he is an unnumbered son of Dorn, who had a particularly religious bend to him.
He wanted to be a
He
priest.
wanted to... He was going to be a priest
priest.
before he was picked up by Call.
Which I imagine as abducted and shoved into
Yes.
mysterious devices.
Yes, from what we've seen in a few other books of flashbacks, Call did basically abduct Marines over the last 10,000... abduct children over the last 10,000 years.
It's cool.
Both from Terra and from individual homeworlds and just from other places.
Okay.
Because of this, Lucerne had a desire to be a Black Templar. The Black Templars are famous for their belief that the Emperor is a god, that he has true divinity, and that they are the only chapter that sort of worships him properly.
Yeah.
Some side retcons there. There are other chapters that do believe in his divinity, but we won't get into that.
Okay.
Because of all of this, Guilliman brings Fabian and Lucerne to him and offers him a plan, gives them orders on what they should do.
He's like, go there, bring some Primaris Marines, find out what happened at the Angevin Crusade, and also then go further, which we're going to talk about soon, right?
Right. So the plan that he gave them was to meet up with the Angevin Crusade, meet up with I forgot the fleet name.
Oh, well, it used to be the fleet of St. Aster, but now it's like something random rolled into a thing because of logistics. But we're meeting back up with Captain Athagay.
Captain Athagay.
Kind of a fleet mistress, and her second in command, Diomed, which are characters that we loved.
Yeah, so they were from Avenging Sun, and I can't remember if they showed up in the others.
I think they're in Gate of Bones, too.
Were they?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So the plan is for Fabian to meet up there, set up the Historitor Logos more, sort of expand it to assist Guilliman in sort of determining the truth of the endeavors, which is a common problem with the Imperium.
And there's also that great side plot that everyone thinks that they're spies. I find that interesting and isn't something that we focus on a lot, but it does give like Fabian and like Mudar in the last book a little bit of tension that like everywhere they go people are like, so you're definitely spies for Guilliman, right? And they're like, no, but now Fabian's kind of like, maybe.
Yeah, so that comes down to the fact that there is both zero trust between individual adeptas of the Imperium and massive egos of every adepta of the Imperium. Every single one believes that they know what is correct, and not only do the others believe incorrectly, but they are actively trying to bring down their correct approach. And because of this, the Historitors get branded as just one more adepta, this time by Guilliman, that's going to bring down the Imperium.
And there's a lot of like pushback when Fabian meets not so much Athagay because she's kind of being a drunk crazy at the time, but when he meets with Finula with her second in command Diomed, it's that like she's worried that he's there to report to Gilliman that like Athagay drinks a lot and takes drugs while on duty, and he's like, yeah, I mean, that won't come up in my reports unless she starts losing battles, right? And so there is a little bit of that like pushback that they might be spies, which I think is interesting.
Tension, romantic tension,
sexual tension.
There is actually
there's sex in this book.
Yeah, Fabia and Diomed definitely get together in the end.
I actually think that's nice.
Yeah. The other major plot thread.
You mean the major plot thread? I feel like I thought that whole Black Templar thing was like a
no. Yes, the Black Templar side plot overall. Okay. It's all right. They needed to cover the Black Templars in some capacity.
Yeah.
But
they have cool armor. That's about it. Because I think that's Lucerne on the cover. The cover is suspicious for us. We're like, who are these people?
We looked at the cover and it's very unusual. We think one is Lucerne, but one might also be Lucerne. And there's an inquisitorial character that
could be Lacrante, could be Antoniado.
Might be Rostov. Like,
I don't think
it's very unusual. And then there's a Sister of Silence on it.
That I thought was Tenebris.
No, it is. So it is definitely a Sister of Silence.
What if it's Yang?
It's not.
Okay.
Yang's face is literally covered in like circular piercings.
I guess, but like that Sister of Silence looks like an alien, so
no. Oh, so I did look that up. The Sister of Silence is part of the Order's Astra, which and the book does cover this, which I think is nice. After the Horus Heresy, the Sisters of Silence were abandoned by the Imperium because of the rise of the Ecclesiarchy. Right. The Ecclesiarchy believed these are warriors without souls. That's not a good look for the Imperium and its religious views. So 2 of the 3 orders of the Sisters were disbanded and just sort of swept out into the galaxy. The Order's Astra, which is the group of sisters that manage the black ships, was the only one that remained. Okay. And so they do look a little differently from the other sisters.
Okay.
You know, there's similarities, but they are all Voidborn, for instance.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
You know, they have more augmetics.
Fine, sure, I was also like, there are Sisters of
Silence. The Sisters of Silence do not play a big role in this book
so it's weird that there's
being so prominently on the cover.
Yeah, okay.
We get a short scene in which a group of word bearers attack a black ship, and we get to meet
Gavamore,
we meet Gavamore, who is the particular psyker that they're looking to pick up as part of a ritual.
So I guess we should back up in that Tenebris,
the Hand of Abaddon, who has slowly gained more prominence as the other characters get killed off.
And at Corferon's direction, or sort of together, I mean, are Chaos Contingents ever really together? They think that something is happening in the warp, and they're trying to figure out what it is, because everyone is having all sorts of weird visions, has been a thread throughout the series. There are all these visions happening, and so they need to perform a ritual, and that ritual requires a psyker of some sort of special ability, and so they are out hunting black ships to find this perfect psyker, and that black ship happens to have this dude on it, Gavamore, who used to be sort of rich, and now he's really unfortunately in the hold of a black ship, but then that black ship gets taken over by word bearers, and it gets better, but also worse.
Yeah, I really enjoy seeing the... So Theodore Yang, who was originally sort of the cult leader underneath the word bearers and has been taken in by Tenebris, really shows her skill in using all of the qualities of the Chaos Gods to manipulate Gavamore into accepting chaos.
Yeah,
and,
she totally
and voluntarily
turns him to chaos.
Acting as this sacrifice.
Also, there was sex. There's 2 sexes in a Warhammer book, which is a lot. Yeah. 2 units of sex. Right. Yeah, so she they have him in a hold, and you think it's going to be, they're going to torture him, and it's going to be mean, and it's going to be terrible, but it really isn't, because she gives him delicious foods and great baths, and they make out, and like he has slaves, and she starts teaching him how to do magic and like use his warp capabilities, and so of course he agrees, because the alternative was going to be get fed to the Emperor, really, and so he agrees, and he's going to help her do this ritual. Help is loose here because this ritual consumes him.
Correct. So the ritual ends up being used by Tenebris to summon Kairos Fate Weaver.
Who's great, and that's
a very famous Zaynchian demon prince. Really the right hand of Zaynch.
That's a great scene. He's good.
Oh.
His two heads are talking, and one of them is lying, and one of them isn't lying. And, like, all of the cultists in the room who have helped Tenebris and Yang do this ritual are, like, bleeding out of their eyeballs. It's great.
Yeah. Ebony really loved that scene.
I did. It was awesome. Gavin Moore's dead.
Yes. We also get introduced to another word bearer, the one who is in charge of tracking down Gavin Moore and has been tracking down all of the black ships, Captain Hruvok, the Master of Hounds. And I found him to be a really interesting character because it's not often that we get to see Space Marine characters with pets, I want to say.
I've read right over it and forgot about it, but yeah. Because everyone else got eaten by the pets. And
right.
They saved Gavin Moore,
He has he trains chimeras, which are, normally we only see those in the company of Drukhari. Like they are, on the tabletop, they are a Drukhari unit. He uses them as these sort of weird half materium, half immaterium creatures to hunt down particular warp entities. And I thought he was great.
Yeah. The other side of the story, I guess the loyalist side of it, of having all these visions, is that we are on this planet called Srinagar, which has 2 stars in its system, Shrin and Gar, which is how it's named. And Srinagar I thought was really cool, and yes, we spent a lot of time on that planet, but I wish we spent a little more time on that planet in its society, because it is the site of an astropathic relay, which I don't think I've ever seen before.
They are not commonly seen in 40K.
Yeah, I've never seen one before, and it's always been sort of a thing in the back of my mind when we talk about astropaths, like how does that happen? How do you trap whatever? And so the sort of lead astropath at the center of this relay on Srinagar, whose name is Mistress Sov, has been having these, like, I want to say warp seizures. So she's been seeing these visions, and she is such a strong astropath, and the visions are so impactful that it is impacting the entire planet. It is causing earthquakes and, like, physically damaging the planet. It's a big deal. And the sort of main characters, because obviously we don't get to talk to Mistress Solve because she's in her, like, soup of, like, amniotic fluid within the astropathic choir, which is this cool sphere that you can walk into with a lot of what I think is lead padding.
It's similar to how some navigators
are in the
enclosed.
Bubble. Yeah. So, but this is a giant bubble that encloses a ton of astropaths. But she's in her own. We really get to meet sort of her handlers, who are the people who sort of I want to say serfs, but they're not serfs. They kind of manage the day-to-day logistics of running the relay. And so they've been dealing with
Rumagoi.
Rumagoi and Tullum, I want to say.
I
can't remember his name. It's not a big deal. Have been sort of managing the sort of quakes and weird tremors that are going on. And on the planet Srinagar are also our Inquisitor characters. So Rostov is there.
Right. So we're still following Inquisitor Rostov and his band.
Yeah.
With
Chilka. Who I still don't know what her species is.
They do say it in this book.
It's like Chilkites. It's like something like that. It's very sea sounding.
Yeah.
But she has multiple arms, and in my mind she's adorable. So I hope she's adorable. But it's Chilka Lacrante, who's the soldier that they picked up in the first novel or second novel, and Antoniato, who's been with Rostov the whole time, and they are on the trail of what they think is someone who is like Chikanti, yeah. I was like, it sounds like Chilka. Yeah, and so they are on the trail of, in theory, Rostov was on the trail of Xenos technology, but...
That was the Blackstone.
Yeah, and so they're following that. He's technically on the trail of the Hand of Abaddon, and it has led him to Srinagar. So we have our Inquisitors there, we have the astropaths and what's going on in the vision that Mr. Solve is having, and we know that Tenebris and Corferon are also trying to figure out what's going on with this similar set of visions, and so everyone meets at Srinagar.
On Srinagar, we run into a very interesting cult. So while Tenebris is puppeting one of his own cult members on Srinagar, sort of from a distance, there is another cult at play here. Do you remember this?
No.
Really, with the guy who they track him down, and before they can question him,
Oh, he eats the cyanide pill.
He eats a cyanide
it's
pill.
not really cyanide because it dissolved his
It
face.
dissolves his head.
But I remember that, but I don't remember why it was important.
So that's very important, and that leads into the reveal at the end of the book, which is this seems to be a continuation of the cult of the Star Child, which is ancient 40k lore.
Never heard
goes
of it.
way back, and it's this idea that the Emperor can be reborn into another human. I might be getting it confused with some other lore. The back when the Illuminati was canon in 40k, that they kept track of the Sensei. The Sensei were the Emperor's biological children.
Oh, okay. So we think we're getting an Emperor's biological child?
No, I think the Star Child is more the idea that the Emperor might take some sort of alternate form.
Okay. Yeah, I guess we should, for a second, talk about what the visions are. And the visions are of a golden child, young man, adult man, old man. It's like constantly shifting, and sort of at the height of the visions coming through and almost destroying the relay, all of the astropaths start chanting, "He is coming." Right, it's a big thing, and it happens to Tenebris too because he eventually they get into the relay, and they're trying to pull the information that the astropaths have. That's why they're headed to Srinagar, and they also end up chanting, "He is coming." So someone's coming. We don't know who it is, and it may or may not be dangerous depending on which side of this fight you're on.
Yeah. The cult was neat to see, and they make reference to the old lore and the Inquisitors that were involved with that at the end. Anything else?
No. I think we could get right back to the space battle.
Right. So the word bearers end up assaulting Srinagar directly. First by sort of just pushing their fleet in, and then by using an athame, an old dagger that we saw quite a bit during the Horus Heresy.
There are 2 athames in this book.
In practice, I think there are 8 or 12 of them.
Because Corferon has one, and Tenebris has one.
Erebus has one.
And Erebus has one. Yeah.
Oleanus Pius has one.
Yep.
And there's a whole bunch of athames around.
Yeah, and it's interesting because so the Loyalists are setting up this cordon in space that's Athagay and Diomed's fleet, and they think that they're ready to like kick butts and take names. Like they don't think the word bearers are going to make it past them. So sort of the on planet protection is a couple of contingents of Space Marines made up of Primaris Marines and or whatnot. And
there's maybe 50.
Yeah, it's not a lot. It's a very small contingent, and the Planetary Defense Force, because as far as they know, the only way to get on this planet is through them in space, and Athagay says that ain't happening. So there's less protection than there should be on the planet. And meanwhile, Fabian and the Historiators are down on the planet in the astropathic relay, because not only is it an astropathic relay, but it is also sort of a library of astropathic communications. And so there's a physical library and physical data there that obviously Guilliman and the Historiators want to protect. So they're there taking digital copies and also moving sort of physical crystal copies of data when the assault starts, right? And so that is sort of the high tension. But they use the athame to put word bearers down on the planet inside the relay.
So they put down 20 word bearer terminators.
It's wild. Those fight scenes are great.
They are really good scenes for Haley. Haley's scenes in fight scenes in general I always felt were a little weak. These I thought were particularly good, especially there's a main fight in which 7 of the Terminators go up against, I want to say 3 or 4 times their number of of Primaris Marines, and surprisingly the Primaris are wrecked, like really hard. They do not stand much of a chance, which is kind of flipping what often gets shown in Primaris, which is the Primaris Marines are better and stronger and faster, and they'll just tear through.
Arios takes out Term. He doesn't kill him. disables
Arios
the Terminator.
gets destroyed.
But he loses his arm and almost dies. He's still alive at the end, but he does disable a Terminator.
I don't actually... Yeah, in total of those 7, I don't think more than 2 or 3 of them were actually killed.
Yeah. Arios disables a Terminator. Like, he does this cool thing, I think, where he slides under it and, like, cuts a connection in its leg so it can't move. And then he gets up close and, like, punches a hole in one of the Terminator's hearts through his armor. But it doesn't kill him. It just puts out I think it comes out his back and puts out the power pack. So, like, he can't
that's
move.
the incapacitated one.
Yeah.
Yeah, no.
He doesn't actually
Arios
kill him.
himself gets taken down by...
Yeah.
One sec.
Yeah, and he loses an arm and is really badly damaged. But in that last sentences, he's
Pridor Vrakon, who's a
Yeah.
Dark Apostle, and we actually saw him earlier alongside Corferon. Just really, really goes to town on Arios.
Yeah,
it's
great.
not even close.
It's a good scene. So surprise, the word bearers are on the planet and the fleet in space really not helpful in protecting. The other problem is that Srinagar is a weird place to put a relay. We should also mention that the sort of like city is underground because the twin stars are super active and there are all these like solar storms and stuff where everyone has to hide, otherwise you'll die of radiation. So that is also happening at the same time.
I actually highlighted a passage specifically about that. The warp is affected by what goes on in reality. It is not simply our spiritual nature that molds it, but matter and gravity. Large mass objects warp the Empyrean's shape. Certain physical phenomena can open up calm channels in the endless storms there. The activity of the stars poisons human life, but creates a conduit of rare conductivity in the warp. Messages sent from this place travel far and sound loudly. That is why the relay station is situated on Srinagar.
So like it is dangerous to live on Srinagar, but it's sort of the environment of where it is in space is good for sending astropathic messages, but that means occasionally everyone's got to hide for a couple of hours because the planet's getting bombarded by radiation.
This was always sort of a funny joke when it comes to like what can affect the warp. The answer is gravity.
Yeah,
gravity can affect the warp. Like, and I don't know. There's a physics joke about how like in terms of complexity, it's gravity, electromagnetism, strong nuclear or weak nuclear force, strong nuclear force. Mm-hmm. Which of those do we know the least about? The answer is gravity.
Yeah.
So gravity's the only thing that is actually crosses into the warp.
Yeah. So the word bearers are on planet. They're fighting. The Historiators are trying to get extracted by the Space Marines that are supposed to be protecting them. Also get out Rimagoy and any astropaths that they can save, and generally protect the relay. We don't want to lose it. But also, no one can talk to anyone because the solar storm has put out all comms. So you just have to hope that people get together. And so there's this really like harrowing scene where the Historiators are like dragging this giant cart full of crystals of data that they're trying to save. And the like 8 Space Marines that are with them are fighting off those like chaos constructs that we got introduced to on Gathalamor.
Yeah.
And like it's killing Space Marines, they're killing them, and they are running out of bullets. So Tenebris has sent hundreds of thousands of them, and they're swarming through this relay, and the Space Marines just don't have enough bullets, the group that are trying to protect Fabian as he's escaping, and they're just about to fail. Like Fabian's about to turn around and use his gun because he has to, and then bolter fire passes over his head, and it's Messinius and the other Space Marines. And
I honestly didn't love that scene.
I liked that scene. I thought it was very like harrowing for a little bit. I also thought the scene where Fabian distracted a word bearer from the rest of the Historiators.
That was
really great.
I did like that one.
Yeah.
Fabian keeps one of the word bearer Terminators just busy enough to allow the others to escape with this giant cart that I feel like was a cart from like ShopRite that was on poor wheels and it kept ramming into the wall.
Yeah.
That was really fun.
They were like, we're pushing it, but every time we push it, it goes left and it runs into the wall, and then we have to drag it around.
That was really good.
It was great. Yeah. I liked all of the scenes in the relay and on the fighting in the relay. We get the Historiators out. Messinius shows up. They save them. They get back into space. And Rostov gets into the relay, like into the center, sees Tenebris.
They fight, and it does
fight.
not go well for Rostov.
No. He falls off the like platform inside the pearl of the relay
and breaks both his legs.
Breaks his legs, and then is trying to like crawl himself to freedom. It's a lot.
All right, final thoughts.
Final thoughts. I enjoyed. There are parts of this book that I would wholesale remove. Like there are whole parts that I feel like could have been an email. The whole Black Templar.
You want the Black Templars just out.
I could have used less Gavimore converting to chaos. I get that they needed a psyker who willingly converted, but I didn't need it. I would have been okay if this whole book was just on Srinagar. Like
no, I enjoyed the earlier parts as well. I enjoyed the hunt for the black ships. I liked the opening scenes with Rostov trying to figure out where to go.
I don't even remember those.
Yeah. Remember they were at the bar.
Oh yeah. And they were like, where is this person that we're trying to find? That is its own whole story, which I guess is fine and is on Srinagar, so it would have been fine for me, I guess.
I agree about the Black Templars arc.
I would give it a solid 7, 8 out of 10.
I would do 8 too.
Okay. Yeah. Oh, we're agreed.
The Black Templar storyline, I guess because these were especially crazy Black Templars, and we do know from other sources, like other Black Templars already had Primaris in them. It is more about Lucerne, finding his place.
And I like Lucerne. I just didn't like the other Black Templar.
Than about the actual Black Templars.
Yeah. No.
Also, the back of the book is such a clickbaity nonsense. It talks so heavily about Corferon's involvement.
Oh, I didn't read that.
And the big push to Gilman.
You mean the appendix? Yeah.
No. If you look up the book, the summary provided for it is super Corferon focused.
Huh, weird.
It's he is in this book for one chapter.
Yeah. Oh yeah, no, I didn't read that, and I never read the appendix, and I never read the list of characters.
The appendix is useful, actually.
I read it in the first book because I didn't know what the Indominus Crusade was, and I was like, this might be helpful for me, so I read it to be sort of in time with things. But yeah, I would give this a solid 8 out of 10. I would recommend it.
Not the worst of the Dawn of Fire series.
No, but I think Gate of Bones is my favorite so far.
Okay.
Yeah.
As there was a comment online that I really agreed with what she was. It is a great continuation of the Dawn of Fire series because it's written by Guy Haley. It is an okay book because it's written by Guy Haley.
Yeah, I mean I liked it as far as books go, but we are paused because this is the last available Dawn of Fire book, right? So next time we're back with
the Siege of Terra with Echoes of Eternity.
Which, spoiler alert, apparently the Emperor still ain't fighting Horus in this book.
He's not going to be fighting him in the next book either.
It could have been an email. Just get to the Horus versus the Emperor part.
No. God, you are such not a fan of history. Oh my God.
I just want to see it. I want to know what happens. It's fine. We'll be back with Siege of Terror.
Remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Let us know what you thought if you read Throne of Light.
Yeah.
And join us next time for Echoes of Eternity.
Woohoo. Bye.
Bye.